All right, Shalom. I want to start off by giving all praise, honor, and glory due to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakakwadash. I'd like to give double honors unto the apostles and the artists of Great Millstone, who I learned this truth from, and I'd like to say peace and salutations unto the hopefully elect. And today, it's going to be, an episode of Missile Monday, which I know today is Tuesday. Meant to do it yesterday, but I'm going to do it today. So it's Tuesday, August 20th, 2024, Missile Monday, and I have an article from the New York Times, and it says, "Doubting America's nuclear umbrella, some South Koreans want their own." And it says, Washington says it would defend the South against the North Korean, against North Korea with nuclear weapons, if need be, but more and more people in the South think it should rely on itself. So I'm just going to, play the audio, of this article. It's going to be about 7 minutes, and then bring out a few scriptures. Lord willing, this lesson is edifying and straight to the point.
Doubting America's nuclear umbrella. Some South Koreans want their own. This article is by Cho Sang-hun and read by an automated voice. Ever since the Korean War was halted in an uneasy truce in 1953, South Koreans have lived under an American promise to defend their country, if necessary, with nuclear weapons. President Biden emphatically reiterated that commitment last year, vowing that any nuclear attack by North Korea would lead to the destruction of its government. But decades of American assurances have failed to deter North Korea from building a nuclear arsenal and then expanding it. Led by Kim Jong-un, North Korea has also become more provocative, testing missiles powerful enough to reach the United States. And it has rattled South Korea by reviving a Cold War-era defense agreement with Russia, another nuclear-armed state. The South has long considered it a taboo to pursue atomic weapons in defiance of Washington's non-proliferation policy. But jitters about security here have been intensified by the possible re-election of former President Donald J. Trump, whose commitment to the alliance between Washington and Seoul appears to be shaky at best. Now, a growing majority of South Koreans say their country needs its own nuclear weapons instead of relying on the United States for protection. The idea, although still disavowed by the South Korean government, is increasingly becoming part of mainstream political debate. Polls show that many South Koreans say they can no longer trust the American nuclear umbrella to guard them from North Korea. They doubt that Washington would come to their aid in the event of a conflict with North Korea, now that Pyongyang is racing to develop the ability to attack American cities with nuclear warheads. "We cannot expect, and should not ask, the American president to use his nuclear weapons to defend an ally at the risk of sacrificing his own people," said Chung Seong-chong, who leads a group of 50 analysts pushing for a domestic nuclear arsenal in South Korea. "We must defend ourselves with our own." South Korea abandoned its nuclear weapons program in the 1970s as Washington pushed non-proliferation and chose to rely on the United States to defend it against the North. Tens of thousands of American troops have been garrisoned for decades in the South, which for many years also hosted U.S. nuclear weapons. Washington withdrew those arms in 1991, hoping the disarmament would incentivize Pyongyang to stop pursuing its own nuclear weapons. For a while, Washington had two important partners in that effort, China and Russia. But in recent years, it has found itself increasingly at odds with both of those countries on issues such as trade tariffs and the war in Ukraine. Now, neither cooperates in American-led efforts to roll back North Korea's nuclear ambitions. Mr. Kim's regime has tested both atomic weapons and intercontinental ballistic missiles. It is developing technology to deliver multiple nuclear warheads with a single missile. It is also escalating its threat to target South Korea with a fleet of nuclear-capable short-range ballistic missiles, which Mr. Kim said this month he would deploy near the border with South Korea. In June, the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute estimated that North Korea had built roughly 50 nuclear warheads and had enough fissile material to build another 40 or so. It was also focusing on tactical nuclear weapons, which have a smaller payload. There is a growing concern that North Korea might intend to use these weapons very early in a conflict, wrote Matt Korda, a researcher at the Institute. It was fears such as these that President Yoon Suk-yeol of South Korea tried to address when he met Mr. Biden at the White House last year. The two leaders deepened their alliance and signed the Washington Declaration to show that the American defense commitment was ironclad. Last month, they reaffirmed that any nuclear attack by North Korea would be met with a swift, overwhelming, and decisive response. For the first time, it has been written down in a document that American nuclear assets will be tasked with deterring and countering North Korea's nuclear force, said Kim Tae-hyo, Mr. Yoon's deputy national security advisor. But that has done little to tamp down misgivings in South Korea about the American nuclear umbrella, which also covers Japan. A poll in February showed that the percentage of respondents who said Washington would defend their country with nuclear weapons even though North Korea could attack the mainland United States with nuclear missiles had dropped to 39% from 51% last year. Another survey, which has been conducted annually for a decade, found a historical shift. Asked to choose between having nuclear weapons or U.S. troops on their soil, more South Koreans for the first time picked the former. Other surveys have found as many as 70% of all South Koreans supporting an independent nuclear arsenal. It has become increasingly common for conservative politicians and private and government analysts to support or discuss the idea, especially after Russia's invasion of Ukraine highlighted the extent to which a nuclear-armed power could get away with invading a non-nuclear neighbor. The call for nuclear weapons will be anything but short-lived because going nuclear sounds sexy as a slogan, said Lee Byung-chul, who has studied nuclear nonproliferation at the Institute for Far Eastern Studies in Seoul. But there is a huge gulf between high public support and a lack of technical capabilities and political intention to build nuclear weapons. South Korea has neither facilities to produce fuel for nuclear bombs nor the technical know-how to design nuclear weapons. And while Mr. Yoon has been more antagonistic toward the North than his recent predecessors, and briefly warmed to the idea of going nuclear, there is little political will in the South to pursue atomic weapons. Strengthening reconnaissance and missile abilities, analysts say, would serve South Korea better and give it the ability to launch preemptive strikes against the North. Building nuclear weapons would be redundant and would not make South Korea any safer, said Chun Young-woo, a former national security advisor, as long as the South Korea-US alliance is alive and well. But the future of that alliance is likely to be volatile if Mr. Trump, who tried to negotiate with Mr. Kim face-to-face, is re-elected in November. It's nice to get along when somebody has a lot of nuclear weapons, Mr. Trump said of Mr. Kim when he accepted his party's presidential nomination last month. I think he misses me, if you want to know the truth. For supporters of a domestic nuclear force in South Korea, Mr. Trump's potential return to power could be a good thing. He once said he would be open to allowing Japan and South Korea to build their own nuclear arsenals rather than depend on the American nuclear umbrella. It could open a window of opportunity, said Mr. Chung, the pro-nuclear analyst.
And as you can see, South Korea is pretty much questioning whether or not the United States will have his back, during World War III. Because these nations know that there is going to be a third world war, and a lot of these major countries are going to be involved, North and South Korea are going to be involved, Russia, obviously, China, Iran, all these various nations, So even though South Korea is allies with America, they're still questioning on whether or not, the U.S. will be able to protect them, and there's biblical prophecy. So, don't be surprised, during that time, if South Korea shoots their missiles over here as well, along with North Korea. So I didn't want to make this one too long. I was going to get straight into it. I'm going to start in the book of Isaiah, chapter 9, in verse 5, and it says, For the battle, it's like you, for every battle of the warrior is with confused noise and garments rolled in blood, but this shall be with burning and fuel of fire. And yes, man, as we know, traditional war, was fought, hand-to-hand combat, men wielding swords, shields, spears, bow and arrows, things of that sort, and eventually, this war is pretty much going to be fought, with burning and fuel of fire. And what's going to bring about, that burning and fuel of fire, those missiles, man, because that's primarily how this war is going to be fought, with nuclear capabilities. Now you will have ground troops that are going to be, fighting each other, but ultimately World War III is going to be fought with nuclear missiles, So now I'm going to get the book of Isaiah chapter 54 and verse 16. It says, Behold, I have created the smith that bloweth the coals in the fire, and that bringeth forth an instrument for his work. And I have created the waster to destroy. And what is that waster, man? That waster being the ICBM missiles that are being developed, during this current time, because all these missiles that are being created are going to be used. None will be left. Every single nuclear weapon that has been created and is being created is going to be used, and the modern day Smiths being those scientists that are developing these weapons, man, because that's the time we're in, man. We're in a time of war, which I'm going to grab that in the book of Ecclesiastes chapter 3, getting straight to the point. Ecclesiastes chapter 3 and verse 8, and it says, A time to love and a time to hate, a time of war and a time of peace. And that's the time that we're in, man. We're in a time to hate, and we're in a time of war. War, because that's what you're hearing about, man. Russia and Ukraine are still at war. North Korea and South Korea. China and Taiwan. Ishmael and Amalek over there in the land. You have all these different, wars that are going on, which is eventually going to lead up to, World War III, So I'm going to get Matthew chapter 24 and verse 6. And it says, And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. And indeed, man, that's what you're hearing of, wars and rumors of war, because again, as we know, even though it's going to happen, it's inevitable. But World War III is still a rumor, World War III won't officially kick off until Russia and America are directly at war with each other. It's like it. So I'm going to grab Jeremiah chapter 50 and verse 45. And it says, Therefore hear ye the counsel of the Lord, that he hath taken against Babylon, and his purpose, and his purposes that he hath purposed against the land of the Chaldeans. Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Surely he shall make their habitation desolate with them. And the least of the flock being, Amalek, man, over there in the land, because they're the ones that are going to get this war started officially, man, because something is going to happen over there to the point where Russia and America are going to have to step in on behalf of, their allies. Because again, Israel is allies with America, and those Palestinians, those different Arab nations, they're allies with Russia. Excuse me, Slakia, pursuant to Ezekiel chapter 38, where it says, that Russia would be a guard unto these different nations, man. So Russia's going to protect their allies. So something is going to happen over there to the point where, again, these two major nations, Babylon the Great and Gog, are going to be at war. So now I'm going to grab Joel chapter 3 and verse 9. And it says, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, prepare war, wake up the mighty men, let all of the men of war draw near, let them come up, beat your plowshares into swords, and your pruning hooks into spears, let the weak say I am strong. So again, South Korea is, now one of those nations, pretty much, saying this, man. They're saying they're strong. Because again, they don't feel like America will be able to protect them, if they were attacked by, North Korea. So they want to develop their own weapons, man. But as we know, again, ultimately all of these nations are going to end up turning on America, pursuing the Revelation chapter 17, the 10 horns burning the whore with fire, man. Because all of these nations are going to be angry at America, and they're going to aid in her destruction, because, on a small scale, Russia is going to be, that main force that is going to take America down. But as we know, on a much grander scale, our Lord Yahweh Shai, along with the angels, are going to, destroy this place, and make it completely desolate, pursuant to Isaiah chapter 34, which gives a vivid description of how America is going to look once it's done burning. This place will never go back to its former glory ever again, So I'm just going to grab a couple more and that'll be it. So I'm going to get the book of Revelation chapter 7 and verse 1. And it says, and after these things I saw 4 angels standing on the 4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds of the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth, nor on the sea, nor on any tree. And those 4 winds being that destruction, man. And now you have these particular angels holding back that destruction, because again, it's a set time when this destruction is going to take place, In verse 2, and I saw another angel ascending from the east, having the great, it's like you're having the seal of the living power. And he cried with a loud voice to the 4 angels, to whom it was given to hurt the earth and the sea, saying, hurt not the earth, neither the sea, nor the trees, till we have sealed the servants of our power in their foreheads. So, the destruction isn't going to take place primarily until the prophecy of Revelation chapter 13 and verse 16, the mandatory implementation of the mark of the beast, which is the RFID microchip. Once that prophecy comes to pass and happens, again, this place isn't going to be destroyed until the elect, until the elect are sealed, man. Which, they may be sealed now, but, you still have some of the elect that have not woken up yet, but, they will. So now I'm going to end it on this. This is the book of Revelation chapter 13, Revelation chapter 9 and verse 15. And it says, and the 4 angels were loosed, which were prepared for an hour and a day and a month and the year, for to slay the 3rd part of men. So again, there is a set time to where this destruction is going to take place, man. You know, and it says, and it's for to slay the third part of men, because you have three classes of men on the earth, man. You have the sons of God, which today are known as the Israelites, the sons of Jacob, all 12 tribes from Judah all the way down to Issachar, all 12 tribes, the sons of God. You have the sons of men, which are, the heathen nations. And then you have the sons of the wicked, which are the nation of Edom today, which is the so-called white man. And that's what this destruction is for Esau. His blessing was the sword, and he's going to be taken out with his blessing. So in reality, his blessing was really a curse, because the same way he came into power is the exact same way he's going to be taken out of power, by way of violence, man. Verse 16, and the number of the army of the horsemen were 200,000, and I heard the number of them, and thus I saw the horses in the vision, and them that sat on them, having breastplates of fire, and of jacinth and brimstone, and the heads of the horses were as the heads of lions, and out of their mouths issued fire and smoke and brimstone. And this is describing the nuclear missiles, the warheads in particular, man. Because again, once they're launched, a lot of these missiles are going to be launched into space, man, out into the firmament. Then once launched out there, man, they're going to break off into different parts once the warhead is completely, detached from the missile itself, from that delivery system, man. It's going to get its specific coordinates, then it's going to return to Earth, man. The heads like lions, it's talking about once those warheads, return to Earth, they're going to be traveling so fast that they're going to be on fire on their way to hit America, because they're going to be traveling extremely fast, Verse 18, it says, by these three was the third part of men killed, by the fire and by the smoke and by the brimstone which issued out of their mouths. And as we know, or should know, that's the part of the missile that does the damage, the warhead, man. There's plenty of videos out there that shows you explosions, man. That's the part of the missile that does the damage, the warhead. Verse 19 says, for their power is in their mouth and in their tails, for their tails were like unto serpents, and had heads, and with them they do hurt. And again, the tails like unto serpents, just like it showed in that picture, in the article, it shows you the tails like unto serpents is talking about that rocket propulsion system that is going to be, guiding these missiles to hit their specific targets, man. Because what are these warheads going to leave? It's going to leave a trail of smoke, man. That's them having tails like unto serpents. But again, it's giving a vivid description of the nuclear missiles, the warheads in particular, and what exactly they're going to do, man. They're going to destroy this place and leave it completely desolate, So South Korea, isn't looking, for the U.S. to help anymore. They're going to develop their own weapons. Let the weak say I'm strong. So that's it. Lord willing, this lesson was edifying. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory due to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakakwadash. I'd like to give double honors unto the apostles and the artists of Great Millstone, who I learned this truth from. And I'd like to say peace and salutations unto the hopefully elect. Till next time I say Shalom.